Welcome to Milan Recording Studios. My name is James Pavel Shakras, and as you can see in today's video, on the keyboard stand we have something that's a little bit unusual. This is the new Kawai ES520, and at a distance, at a glance, the ES520 is visually indistinguishable from the ES920, its bigger brother. The only visual difference being that the ES520 does not have the four faders that its bigger brother, the ES920, has. That's part of the reason I got this in white, so that people could differentiate between the two in the thumbnail, because otherwise they would look exactly identical. The other reason being is that I think that this particular shape, this design, the ES520 and the 920, I think they look better in white than they do in black. I think they look a little bit bland and blah in black, but in white, they're really, really beautiful. The other reason I have this in white is because when I went to buy an ES520, they didn't have any black ones in stock, so I was kind of forced to buy the white one, and I'm happy that I did. So what is the 520, and why does it exist? Well, Kawai has a lineup of digital pianos called the ES line, named so because that's what the model names are. You have the ES110, you have the ES520, and you have the ES920 that I've already mentioned. All of these, two of them are brand new, and the ES110's been around for a long time. So what I'm going to be doing in today's video is focusing only on the ES520, but in the future I'll have a comparison between the ES520 and the ES110, and also between the ES520 and its bigger brother, the ES920, which I've mentioned about 5 times already. So if you're interested in seeing those videos, you might want to stay tuned for those, but today we're going to be keeping our discussion mostly about the ES520. Now, originally, Kawai only had the ES110 and the ES8 in the ES lineup. The ES110 is a relatively low-level, budget-friendly instrument that's very awesome for its price class, and the ES8 is a much higher-end instrument that's quite good for its price class as well. However, recently, within the last few months, Kawai has been switching that up. The ES8 has been phased out by the ES920, and the ES520 was put somewhere in the middle. When Kawai first announced this, and when rumors of the ES520 began spreading, people assumed it would be a replacement for the ES110, and if that were true, this would be a massive upgrade. However, it's actually an intermediate product. You have the ES110, ES520, and ES920, so there's 3 now. What the fate will be for the ES110 is honestly, in my opinion, unknown. Perhaps they'll update it to become the 120, so it'll fit the naming scheme of the ES series, or perhaps they'll phase it out, perhaps they'll radically improve it. I'm not sure. Only time will tell. So, the ES520. Here it is. So let's talk a little bit about the build quality, the visual aesthetics, and things of that nature before I get around to playing it, but I will turn it on because one of my favorite things about the new ES520 is the screen here. It's very reminiscent of the screens that Nord uses on some of their products. It's this nice, bold, black, I think it's an OLED display, and it's very, very nice. It's very readable. You can see it at any angle. It's very bright. You could probably even see it out in broad daylight, although I've never used it out in broad daylight. It's very nice, and I'm happy that that's there. The overall user interface of the ES520 is really, really nice. You've got a couple of buttons over here for your transpose and split. You've got a row of buttons here to change your sounds. You've got some effects buttons in the middle here under the screen. You've got your record and rhythm control buttons right here. You've got a metronome and a USB button here. Then you've got your volume slider here, and you've got your power button right over here. You've also got your menu buttons up here to the right of the screen. So using this instrument is incredibly, incredibly intuitive, and that's one of the nice things about Kawai products. The only thing that's not super intuitive is the menu. It's a little bit quirky, but it definitely can easily get used to, and once you know where everything is in the menu, it's honestly pretty much a breeze to go through there and navigate things. Honestly, I don't find myself diving into the menu that often. I'm pretty happy with the way everything is set up straight out of the box. There's maybe a couple of things other people might want to tweak, but myself personally, I almost never find myself diving into the menus of the ES520. The music desk that it comes with is a pretty standard music desk. It's a pretty common design that you see now with this transparent plexiglass design that basically will just slot into here. But I can't put it there to show you what it looks like yet because we have a sheet of protective plastic here. So let's take this off. I know the people of the internet love those sort of things. So I'll get rid of that. And we'll put this here just to show you what it looks like. It basically just goes in, and that's that. There you have it. That's the music desk. The music desk also has a couple of protective sheets of plastic, so we shall remove those as well. Here we go. There we go. There's one. And let's get the other one off here. Let's see here. Which way does it want to come off? This side. Here we go. there you have it. This is the perfectly clear ES520 music desk, and that is what it looks like up on the thing. It's a little bit loose. Is it supposed to click into place, or does it just sit in? I think it just kind of sits in like that. I guess that does the trick. It looks pretty nice. Once again, I think these look better in white than they do in black. So what is it like to play and to use the ES520? Well, one thing I wanted to talk about is the build quality, which I kind of ragged on the ES920 for having a relatively low build quality. Certain aspects of the ES520 I think are a little bit higher quality than the ES920. I mentioned that the underside of the ES920 seemed very hollow to me, and that's not quite the case on the 520. Like, yeah, it's not a solid sheet of plastic or whatever it was on the old ES8, but it doesn't feel quite as hollow as it did on the 920. The action of the ES520 is actually quite pleasant to play on as well. I liked the action of the old ES110, and this uses a slightly modified, slightly updated version of that. It still has the kind of a light, delicate feel that the old responsive hammer compact action used. This is the RHC2, and I don't know how much Kawai has really changed about it, but I do know that it still feels very wonderful to play on. It has a slightly heavier feel than I remember, but not as heavy as the action in, say, the ES8 felt. It's a quite nice in-between feel, and it has no problems playing anything musically that I have thrown at it so far. Noise-wise, how much noise the action itself makes is pretty acceptable. It kind of has a little bit of a bounce when it comes up, like that, but it's not really that offensive, and it doesn't really affect your playing that much at all. But if you were to practice on this with headphones on, when everyone else is busy doing things and you don't want to bother them with piano music, they would hear something along the lines of this. Which I don't think is that offensive at all. So, now let's actually hear what it would sound like to play it. I'm going to turn the volume up, and we're going to test out the default piano patch, the SK Concert Grand Sound. So that is the default piano patch, and as you can hear, it sounds quite lovely. Now, something else that's nice about the ES520 is that it shares many of the high-quality sounds of its higher-end brothers, like the ES920 and even the MP7 SE and MP11 SE. Those high-class keyboards use the same exact sounds that are found in this. At least they're all named the same, so I would assume that they are the same. They sound a little bit thinner than I remember them sounding on other Kawai models, but that could be the speakers. Something might be changed a little bit about the ES520. And that could also be a little bit of the reason why the ES520 is lighter than the ES920, because it has smaller speakers or something, perhaps. However, even though it sounds a little bit thinner than I remember Kawai's sounding with these same patches in the past, it's still lovely to play on. It still sounds really, really good, and it still is a very big pleasure to play on. I really enjoy it. So what I'm going to do is run you through some of the SK Concert Grand sound a little bit more, and then we'll jump through some of the other acoustic piano patches, because it has quite a few, and honestly, they're all pretty great. So you have quite the range of acoustic piano sounds. Honestly, some of them aren't amazing, like the pop grand and the modern piano and the rock piano in the second category. Not really my favorite thing, but I wouldn't say they're necessarily bad. They're just not as good as that default SK Contra Grand sound. Part of the reason I love it is because of the really great resonance that it has up here. It sounds quite authentic in this high treble region, and it's just really, really wonderful. Take a listen. It sounds very, very nice, and the digital piano here is really, really great to play. As I said earlier, it can handle just about anything that you musically can throw at it. So you can play pianissimo, very, very quiet, slow music, and it'll sound nice, or you can play loud, faster stuff, and it will also sound nice. It's a little demo of that. So I broke up the Clair de Lune a little bit just to show you the pianissimo beginning and then also the wide range of that second section that really shows the excellent balance between the low bass and the high treble of this patch, which is another reason why I love it. Sometimes with digital piano patches, they won't blend well between the low bass and the high treble, and the high treble in this is icy, sparkly, and bright, just like you'd want to find in a real acoustic piano, and also like what you would find in the real Shigeru Kawai SK Concert Grand. This doesn't really sound like an SK. You wouldn't listen to an audio track of this necessarily and go, oh yeah, that's a Shigeru Kawai, wow, it sounds so amazing. But at the same time, it does share some of the characteristics of the SK Concert Grand, which I think is a really nice feature. The low bass sounds good, the high treble is sparkly, and all around it's one of the best digital piano samples that I have played so far. You've also got some really nice electric pianos on here as well that I have always been happy with ever since the ES110 has had some really great electric piano sounds, and since that, everything else that Kawai has put out has had some great stuff too, the MP11, all those. So let's check out a few of these electric piano sounds. I'll just run through them all, and we'll play a little bit on all of them. So those are all of the electric pianos. We started off with the classic EP, which is a Fender Rhodes type sound. We moved on to a variation of that. The third one was 60s E-piano, or Wurlitzer type sound. The second one was like a synthesized version of a Whirly, which doesn't really sound like a Whirly, but is still really awesome. And the final one is a modern electric piano, which is intended to replicate a sound that the Yamaha DX would have made back in the day. So all of those I think are pretty cool. They're pretty fun. Probably my least favorite would be maybe the classic EP or the modern EP, but I think all of them are pretty solid. None of them are really cheesy or terrible. They're all pretty good. I think I'm going to pause here for a minute and take a little look at some of the effects that are on board the ES520. This is something I kind of glazed over in my ES920 review, so we're going to take a look at this and show you some of the effects. And I think what better spot to do it at than with some of the EPs, because the EPs are one of the things you'd actually run through these effects. If you hold down the effects button, it will bring up effects type, and then you can use the value buttons up here to scroll through them. So I'm just going to play a chord on each different type of effect and let you listen to what they all do. So those are all of the effects. We started off with the classic tremolo, and then we went to the vibrato tremolo. I messed up a little bit because if you sit on the effect type menu for a bit, then it will go away and leave you back on the default screen. Then when you hit the value button, it will change the sound, not the type of effect. So that happened, and then I went to hit the effects button. I hit the reverb button on accident, so it was a little bit of a fiasco there. But anyway, we started off with the classic tremolo. From there we went to the vibrato tremolo, the auto pan, the classic pan, the phaser, the classic phaser, the compressor, the rotary one, the rotary 2, which was pretty fun, mono delay, ping delay, triple delay, chorus, which I also really liked, classic chorus, ensemble, which does nothing to the best that I can tell, and then tremolo, and then finally the classic tremolo, what we started on. So those are all of the effects that are built into the ES520, and so you can actually come in here and you can change the dry wetness of them, you can change the speed, and I guess that's about it, at least for the tremolo, which is what it's set to right now. You can also come in here and change the amp simulator, because you've got a basic amp sim on here. So you can come in here and change a couple of different amp types. There's small case 1, small case 2, large cabinet, and there you have it. Then if you hit the menu button, you can also change what the drive is, so how overdriven the amp is. You can get some gritty sounds out of it, and you can also change the level of this as well. You can also change the EQ, EQ high, EQ low, and there you have it for those. I'm not really going to go through those, but I will just take the drive of this one and crank it all the way up to 10, turn the volume down a little bit, and just give you a little demo. So you can kind of get a gritty, gross kind of a tone out of it, which is kind of fun. It's not, you can't get as gritty of a sound out of this as you can with some digital pianos like the Korg SV1 or SV2 that have a really in-depth amp sim that really can go overboard on the overdrive. But nonetheless, you can get kind of a tame, gritty sound out of it, which might be kind of nice for some situations. To be fair, the Korg SV1 and others like the Krumar 7 can go a little bit too far in the overdrive, but for me, that's just kind of what makes them fun. The reverb is also really nice on the ES520 here as well, so I'm going to take you through all of those. We're going to start off with the room reverb, which is the smallest, and we'll scroll all the way up through to the cathedral, which is the biggest and longest. And for this, I think we'll use the acoustic piano, because that's what most people like to have reverb on, is acoustic piano. So let's try that out. So we've got a bunch of different reverb types in here as well, which are great. You can also come in here and customize those as well. Hang on, I left the reverb menu and now I just hit the main button. So you can change the reverb depth, you can change the reverb time of all of these as well, so that's also kind of cool. Then you can also save these. If you make any changes to a sound, you can save them to a registration bank just easily right in here in the sounds option, which is really cool. Continuing on with the sounds, up next we have organs, and the Kawai ES520 has a few different organs. You got the jazz organ, the drawbar organ, the ballad organ, my personal favorite, principal octave, so pipe organ type sound, and then church organ, obviously a pipe organ. So we're going to go through those, and I'll play a little bit on each of those, and we'll see what they all sound like. The organs are obviously not the main focus of the ES520, so they haven't put a lot of emphasis on them. The first three are okay. The third one, being the ballad organ, is my personal favorite. It actually sounds really nice. Then the two pipe organ ones are, well, they're okay. I'm pretty sure they've been reusing that last one there for quite some time. It definitely sounds old and cheesy at this point. But again, the organ's not the main focus of this instrument, so I guess I can understand the logic there. I rarely use the church organs on most keyboards. Even the ones that have good church organ sounds, like the Yamaha P515 and my SV2, I hardly ever mess with those. Up next, we have a kind of a miscellaneous section, the harpsichord and mallets. So you've got a harpsichord and some mallet instruments. We'll check those out. So those are the harpsichord and mallet sounds, and up next is the strings and choir section. So you've got some string sounds and some choir sounds. Let's check these out. So in there, we started off with the string ensemble. We went to the slow strings, the string pad, then the warm strings, the choir, the square pad, which I really like, the new age pad, and then back around to the original strings patch, which was the string ensemble. Up next is the basses. So you've got a few different types of bass sounds. You got the electric bass and upright bass and a few different types of those. So let's go through here and test out those. And with that, those are all of the default sounds of the Kawai ES520, and I hope you guys enjoyed taking a look at those. With all of the sounds out of the way, there's not a lot left to talk about the Kawai ES520. It's a pretty simplistic instrument, but there's still a few cool features I thought I might go over. One of those is the transpose function, which is actually quite handy. Sometimes if you are wanting to, say for example, if you're in a band and they're going to be performing an arrangement of a piece, but the arrangement of the piece is in a different key than the original, and you want to play along with the original to be able to know how to play with the band better. And the original key is in a different key than you're playing in, so you want to transpose it, but your piece is in a different key than the original key. You get what I'm saying? You can use the transpose function to do that. So it's pretty handy. The way it works on here is pretty sweet. So you just hold this button down and then push any key and it will transpose down or up that many half steps from the default. So for example, the default is middle C. If you push transpose and put middle C, you're back in the normal range. And then if you want to go down 3 half steps, you just hit the A below middle C, 3 half steps down, and then your middle C becomes this A. Which is pretty self-explanatory. But what's cool though is you can actually do an octave lower and an octave higher. So you can hit this low C and now everything is transposed down exactly an octave, which means you can unlock a lower register of the key bed as well as a higher register of the instrument too. So we can check out what that would sound like. So there's some fun with the transpose function there, which is always good to have. You can also layer and split sounds remarkably easy with this instrument too. To layer, you just push 2 sound buttons at once, and there you go, you've got layered sounds. To change which sound you want is a little bit tricky, and I kind of forget how to do it, but let's see if I can figure out how to do it. What I want to do is layer the acoustic piano with the that square pad. So what I need to do is when I push 2 at the same time, you have a top voice and you have a lower voice. So to change one or the other, you hold down the voice you don't want to change, and then you push the other button, which is the voice that will change. So if I want to change the lower voice, which is on slow strings, I hold the piano button down, I don't want to change that one, and I hit the other button to scroll through to the square pad. I just went right past it. Where is it? There it is. So now we've got the SK Concertgrand layered in with the square pad, and we'll see what the heck that sounds like. You also have a split function on here as well, which works just about the same way as the layering function does too. To change your top voice, you just push any of these buttons and your top voice changes, and then the bottom voice, which it defaults to being a bass, you hold the split button down, and then you can make any of the voices on the instrument become your lower voice. I'm gonna make it be the electric bass here, and I'm gonna make my top voice, my top voice be the 60s E piano. We're gonna have a little bit of fun with that. There's a few other features of the ES520 as well that are pretty cool. You have a recorder functionality over here, which makes it very easy to simply record yourself if you're practicing and you want to hear what you sound like when you're playing a piece of classical music, which is really useful for that type of application. You can do so here if you're jamming out and you come up with some kind of a cool groove and you want to record it, you can do so here. Or if you just want to make a recording because you want to, you can do that here. The recording stop-start, I'm pretty sure the stop-start, I know the AB, does this have AB? Ah, it doesn't have AB, that's the feature on the 920. But the recording, let's just make a recording, test it out actually, let's just do that. So there you have it, the record function does indeed work. You also have a rhythm function on here too, so you can hit the rhythm button. And you get rhythm functionalities as well. You can change the rhythm right here, I'm sure you can. Rhythm, how do I make the rhythm go up and down? That's strange. Why doesn't the rhythm, they hit exit. Rhythm. There it is. Okay, so you can't silently change the rhythm. You have to make it be playing. But you do just hit those rhythm buttons and it does change, but it also starts the rhythm at the same time. So that's a more fun alternative to a metronome, which this also has too. So you can either practice with a metronome or with a fun rhythm. Either way is pretty cool. I don't like how when you change the rhythm, it plays the rhythm. I kind of get the logic to it, but it's also kind of weird. You think when you hit the rhythm up and down, it should enter you into like a rhythm menu, and then you just hit play and it starts the rhythm and stops the rhythm. But it is what it is. So that has been my review of the Kawai ES520. It's kind of funny, on Kawai's website they label this as being a good instrument for a beginner pianist, and if that isn't, what's the word I'm looking for? An overstatement? An understatement? I don't know what the right word is there to say, but this is much more than just a beginner's digital piano. This is a phenomenal instrument for a beginning pianist to learn on, and it would last them many, many years musically, probably 4 to 5, if not even more than that. Until they decided they just wanted a better digital piano just because they could, not because they needed one. The ES520 is honestly really quite wonderful. If you have a ES8 or something, it wouldn't be worth getting an ES520. It would actually be a bit of a downgrade, but the action is kind of nice, so I think that would kind of be up to you. But if you have an ES110, you could, in theory, upgrade to an ES520. It's an excellent digital piano. I really, really enjoyed it. I think just the quality of sounds alone would definitely be worth the upgrade over the ES110, because the ES110 sounds, although they were good for the price bracket, compared to this, they do kind of pale in comparison. I think the 60s EP, the one I've been using a lot in today's video, is the same between the two, or at least very similar. Everything else in here, though, I'm pretty sure, and the organ sound, that church organ, the cheesy one, that one's also the same between this and the ES110. But other than that, there's a lot of improvements between this and the ES110, and just as a whole, it's really wonderful to play, it's wonderful to listen to, and my only complaints about it are that the action is perhaps a little noisier than ideal. It does make a bit of noise, and the speakers at maximum volume with organ sounds and some of the basses, they do have some buzzy distortion that isn't ideal. The damper pedal it comes with is amazing, the playing experience is awesome, and the sonic experience is, as a whole, excellent, and so I definitely do enjoy the Kawai ES520. If you guys enjoyed my video of it, you might want to go check out my channel. I've got lots of cool videos of acoustic pianos, digital pianos, organs, and all kinds of other cool stuff too. So if any of that sounds cool, you might want to go check out my channel, and if you do that, thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.